doesn't matter, but I was
Well, now it's gonna bother me.
like, why is it?
Now I'm gonna have the affliction.
Why is it changed anyways? Let me see, is it? Where do you want it?
Audience sharing.
Share their feed first. That's gonna have the element.
It just says due to schedule conflict.
That's all it says?
Yeah. I don't, maybe it's just like.
That's what I was looking for. I thought I had it more specific.
Yes, I walked in with her. I talked to Dr. Jenny yesterday. She was hoping to.
Oh, is it
She was thinking that today was yesterday, or today was tomorrow, so she was thinking she had sports, but then didn't, and
I had an appointment yesterday. It was throwing me all off that we were moving the time. Like, yeah, I didn't even move to a Monday to begin with. Then I thought welcome to parenthood. That's what it's like. That's what I said to Tom. I have it right now. Today. He'll be like, it's the 31st, whatever. I'll be like, no, what day is today? Is it Monday, Tuesday? What's the day today? I don't know the day.
Hey, Greg. Quick question. The November.
Yeah.
Why do we not do November 3rd? Just remind me.
No, I
doesn't know.
Oh, really? I don't have to
There's
do
some
it on
conflict, I know,
bargaining,
of
right?
sorts.
That was the only thing.
Yeah,
Okay.
November
Then yes, I'll do that.
There's some conflict. I just don't know what it is.
November 3rd, I think it's the MASC conference.
It is. It's yeah. The first Wednesday of the month is that.
I thought you were asking about the second
No.
election day.
No.
We have the ED day on the 1st, which our intention was to have it on the 2nd.
And Southborough's having a special meeting.
Special town meeting on the 1st
For.
zoning bylaws.
But you have to go.
Because we have a potential warrant article
Oh.
for the high school.
Good times.
We could do that virtually a little bit early.
Virtual on the first.
Is that what she said?
Love that. I love virtual. Yeah.
Did it say the body is there?
5:30 p.m. And I'm gonna put Zoom. Love Peter. Oh yeah, I'm seeing. Yeah, I'm seeing it's 6:30 on my computer too.
Got it swayed.
No, it's staying. Trying to get my.
It's like an airplane.
You got the extra leg room.
I do. I get the exit.
Tire.
Special stuff.
Lamb section over here.
Yeah, he's in my seat. I like him.
Good vice chair. You have to catch her if she falls. That's why you're sitting next to her.
Good evening. Tonight is September 1st, 2021. Welcome to our first school committee meeting of the year. It's good to see everyone in person. So we will be having our first meeting of the year here at Milliken Middle School and hopefully continue that. And so the time is 6:32. Thank you. The time is 6:32. We have 4 members present today. Joan Frank is absent. We're going to start with our first agenda item A, which is audience sharing. Do we have any members in our audience today who would like to share? Excellent. Come on up, please. And just as a reminder, during sharing, we would love to hear anything that you would like to say to us. We typically don't respond. If you would like to share your name and address, we'd appreciate that. Thank you.
My name's Kristen Tejan. I'm at 30 Osier Ave, Northborough, so just around the corner. I came just because I have a concern/question about the lunch program, which last year Kyle Parson and his whole crew did a fantastically awesome job with that whole program, getting lunches ready for tons of families and going in their bags and bags and bags and bags, right, with allergies and everything else, and it was fabulous. I had my older two remote at home, and then I have two who are under 5 who are not old enough for school, and working a full-time job as well at home that like literally saved my life, not to mention my budget, because I and my husband took a huge pay cut because our companies were also struggling through everything else, right? Like I'm sure many other people in this room did. So I was really excited when I saw the news that was again continued through this year. Yay, right, President? And I'm very excited that I don't have to pack a lunch for my older two because it makes my mornings easier, and I know they're getting a nutritious meal, which is also a big headache, trying to figure out what is healthy and what has too much sugar. But I was disappointed to see that there was no longer an open site. So I had emailed Kyle because I said, well, how do I pick up lunches for my younger two? Because I want to make sure that they're still getting the nutrition that the program provided last year. And he said, unfortunately, we signed up to be a closed site. We couldn't sign up to be an open site because of the stress that it would put on staff, which it's obviously extra work for staff, right? Which is understandable, but also disappointing because it's obviously a program that I'm paying for through my taxes and am eligible for, according to all my facts and figures and whatnot. So I have two kids who are eligible for a program, but I don't have access to it. And not to get too political, but right, you can have the greatest program in the world, but if you can't get it to the people, then it's diddly squat. It doesn't really get you anything. It doesn't help anybody. So there are other sites, because Kyle was kind enough to point me to Project Bread that had the open sites that are listed, which was helpful, but there's nothing anywhere remotely feasible for, again, a mother of 4 with a full-time job trying to travel to several towns over, or another site in downtown Worcester or something. So again, not accessible, even though it's a program that I pay for and I qualify for, et cetera. So I would love to see if there was a way to bring that back. And the other thing that concerned me was how that decision was made, which I don't know anything about how that decision was made, except that there was, I know, a staff concern. But we just, had a year-long task force, for example, for the mascot change, right? Should we change our mascot? Which is actually the 3rd time in my memory that we have had such a task force or committee. And we had a task force on school closings for several years and analyzed it and got input from all areas of the community. And it seemed like this decision was just sort of made, and there was no survey to parents. Do we need volunteers? We can't do this on our own. Can people come help us? Could you pack meals for us? And then maybe we can make it accessible. That would have been great too, to get input more from members of our community who are impacted like me from the decision to change it. And so, I guess I was just looking for, how did that decision get made? Can it be reversed? Is there a possibility if there was parents who could volunteer? I wish I could volunteer more, but yeah, I think I need another thing to do. I need a hole in the head at the moment, but yeah. But those were my 2 real concerns. And then again, I wanted to thank everyone who participated and made that program possible last year, because it was just simply awesome. That was it. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah, so thank you for communicating that information to us, and we will take your comments under advisement and see if there are any solutions to the problem that you addressed. So thank you for bringing that to our attention, and we will get back to you and see if we can come to a solution.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Would anyone else like to share tonight? All right. Seeing none, we're going to move on to our next order of business, which is new business. And that's a school reopening update. So it was our first day back in our school buildings, and we have a lot to talk about. So, Mr. Martineau, thank you.
So, yes, we had a great first day today. It was outstanding seeing our students return. We all had a chance to visit classrooms, and it was great to see the classrooms. They feel much more like normal. The students were, for the most part, very happy, and our teachers were even happier, I believe. And the buildings look great. The custodians have done a nice job, and all of the work that went into preparing for the first day of school really paid off. And it was a team effort. So this evening, each of the directors will share an update on kind of reopening and some of the events that took place over the summer. And then we'll hear from our principals, and they'll share their first day experiences. And then we'll hear from Keith the Boy, who will talk a little bit about transportation. And then lastly, we'll hear from Mary Ellen Duggan, who's in the very back, and will share a little bit of information about health and safety protocols as we move forward. So at this time, I'd like to turn it over to Dr. Reinhorn, who will provide a teaching and learning introduction.
So I wanted to first highlight the Summer Acceleration Academy that we put on this summer. It was a 1-week opportunity for a small number of students to have a focused academic experience in one discipline. It was specified by a grant, so the grant came to us in June, so we worked on a very short timeline. And a huge thank you to Nicole Bolos and Kelly Schweppenhauser, who are actually both Southborough teachers, but work together to coordinate the Northborough and Southborough Summer Acceleration Academies together. So they worked together, and then Nicole was the coordinator on-site in Northborough. We had first graders and second graders focused on literacy, third graders, fourth graders, and eighth graders focused on mathematics. It was a very small teacher-student ratio by design, and we had a total of 71 students in first to fourth grade, and then 13 students in eighth grade. And the eighth graders were actually located at the high school with the 10th graders, and we're very excited to explore the high school and get Algonquin t-shirts. The elementary students were at the Z school, and a thank you to Z for hosting us there. And on the eighth grade side, I also would be remiss if I didn't thank Eileen Falcone, who was the site coordinator for the secondary students, and she did a fantastic job with some of the high school teachers who taught the eighth graders. I think that's a good summary.
Thank you. Kelly?
So is it like 8th graders going into 9th or 7th going into 8th?
Great question. All the grades I said, the kids were going into that
Into
grade.
those
So they were
grades.
going into first, going into second, going into eighth.
And so was this like they're excelling in their level, so it was kind of like a thing, or is it more for like extra, like what level of
Great
the program
question.
was
So
it?
the program, as I said, all highly specified by the state.
Yes.
There was like a definition of what an acceleration academy was. This was targeting students who we felt there was unfinished learning
Okay.
as a result of COVID and would benefit from a boost, a focused 1-week effort that would lead into school.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. And so why not 5th, 6th, 7th? Like, it seems like there's a little bit miss.
So the grade levels are specified in the grant.
So
the
funny.
only grade level that could have been done but we didn't was entering K. And our rationale for that was that our preschool was full-time.
Yeah.
And so we decided to focus the funds on the grades where kids had been hybrid or remote, whereas our preschool was in person. For the most, there were a few students who weren't. Yeah.
So and I'll just add that, so it was funded through Department of Elementary and Secondary Education,
Yep.
and it was an entitlement grant. So any school district that applied for the funds would be able to start an accelerated academy. So I just want to applaud Stephanie for, in very short notice, standing up a program for the benefit of our students. So nice work.
Thank you. Any other questions? And Stephanie, has anything like this ever been granted in the past for our school districts?
So not that I know of in Northborough, Southborough. It is modeled after some programs that other districts in the Commonwealth have done. And I will say that the teachers and some parents, and I went to to visit during the program, really enjoyed it. Like, there was a lot of positive feedback, and I think for some of our students who hadn't been in school for over a year, this was a really nice bridge back. It was just a more relaxed, really positive. There was about 7 to 10 kids to one teacher in most classes.
And that was last week, did you say?
It was August 9th, the week of
Second
August
week.
9th. Thank you, Dr. Reinhardt.
Sure.
All right, next we have Marie Allen, who's the Director of Student Support Services, who will provide an update of all the work that she's been accomplishing over the summer.
All right. Good evening, everyone. As you're well aware, Student Support Services does not end in June, and we get the opportunity to have a second reopening to our school year as we welcome our students into our extended school year program known as ESY. So we were all in person in Northborough for our students, and we welcomed them into our building, and also keeping our COVID protocols in place and our pooled testing and all of the things that we did during the school year. And we continued the academic and social learning across 2 buildings. So one was at Finn and one was at Algonquin. We offered 10 programs in walk-in services across 20 classrooms to students pre-K through grade 8. And we offered 148 students ESY, and of those, 102 were in attendance. And our total ESY program was offered to 265 students, and with 187 in attendance pre-K through age 22. So you can kind of get the comparison there. I want to thank Keith Lavoie and our custodial staff, Mary Ellen Duggan back there, and Principal Ryan and Principal Bevan at both Finn and Algonquin. They really paid a lot of attention to the detail and making sure that the classes were cleaned and the hallways were cleaned before we even got there. So everybody had a great concerted effort in making it a successful year for our kids. I also want to thank our ESY coordinator, Helene Desjardins. She did a masterful job in scheduling and coordinating all our programs, and as well as including the challenges with staffing and finding substitute staff. That was definitely a theme across all school districts this summer. And then Deb Lemieux, Kate Clark, and myself were stationed at the 2 schools, and we just were there to offer questions of the day to parents and to teachers and to work with students. So all in all, it was a very good, successful summer program. And today, Deb and I walked around to all of the schools in our district, and Kate was at the high school just to welcome our students back and our teachers back. And it was great to see everybody, as Greg said, working in quiet classrooms, honeymoon period happening. So it was great.
Thank you so much.
You're
Any
welcome.
questions? Marie, I just wanted to recognize you as well in your leadership. I know that you stepped in when there were a lack of substitute teachers. So I really want to recognize you and all your leadership to get ESY up and running and smooth sailing. So thank you so much, Marie.
Thank you. It was great to teach the kids. It was so much fun, just dusting off that teacher license and having a lot of fun.
I heard some great things about it. I actually know some people from Southborough that actually attended through it, and they were very pleased with everything, and thought it was great. So.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I just want to echo your remarks. Thank you, Marie, for your leadership. And the summer was unprecedented in terms of what it took to run a program. So thank you. So next we have Rhoda Webb, who's the Director of English Learners and Equity, and she'll be providing an update on happenings that took place in her department.
Good evening. So it's a pleasure to let you know about our program, our summer program, and I brought a few images because they're worth, let's see if I'm connected.
Is that
So I'll just start
Went to
talking.
It's just sleeping.
Oh, it's not on. So it was really a pleasure to have our English learners in person with our summer school this summer, which took place in August. We finished actually last Thursday, and we had a total of 30 students, grades 1 through 8 from Northborough, and a total of 62 in all in our program, because we joined Northborough, Southborough, and the region to build community in our district. This year we focused on STEM, that is science, technology, engineering, and math. And we're developing the language proficiency of all our English learners as they are reconnecting. A few of our students hadn't been in school last year, so it was a great opportunity to see all our students together, and of course they make friends across schools. And as they were developing the language, we focused on a different challenge every day. Grades 1 through 3 based it on fairy tales and those fairy tales, the versions throughout the world, and designed projects connected to those fairy tales. In grades 3 to 5, the theme was outdoors and camping, so all the challenges had to do with outdoors. And 6 to 12 focused on engineering and what it meant, all the different aspects of engineering and building. So here you see some images of students using and applying math. They are getting ready to build. They were interacting, practicing academic language, either using sentence stems, talking about the design process and the challenges that they had. You can see here there are students that one of the projects was to build a fishing rod with 8 noodles and then hang weights and be able to see the breaking point of the fishing rod. I think that's one of the pictures here. There they're building a tower to see how tall they could build a tower outdoors. They had to practice persevering. They had a self-reflection at the end of every morning to see what skills and how they had progressed. As you can see, we used tons of recyclables. So the projects all had to do with creating, designing, mapping, and improving on the projects. And building the students' confidence as well. What you see back there is a tent. This is building a bed to see how much weight the bed could sustain, to build the just right bed. And then enjoying their success after several attempts of improving the design and rebuilding again and talking about it. So it was an integration of math and geometry and all different skills. I want to thank Alani Soder for being the site coordinator, Sandy Bunsick for helping us design the curriculum, and a wonderful staff that really collaborated and planned together. And these are just some comments of the students. At the end, parents take a survey, and they have to ask their children what they learned, what they preferred from the program. So a very positive experience. The nicest thing was to be able to see families in person and have our children in school, and they were all thrilled to come back each morning, and that was most important of all, and all the learning that they did in the time that they were together. So thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you so much, Rhoda.
You're welcome.
Any questions from members?
What schools was it at? Was it
Z School.
So it was at Z. Was it all summer or just a week, or how long?
No, middle school and high school started the week of August 9th,
Okay.
Monday through Thursday, 9 to 12, and they did 3 weeks.
Okay.
And then the rest of the grades started the following Monday and did 2 weeks. And so want to thank Mrs. Here once again for allowing us to use C School. And it was a great, we had the tornado warnings and the heat waves. So the children did absolutely great. So it was a wonderful experience.
Thank you so much for sharing those highlights, Rhoda.
You're
it was really
welcome.
great to see the students in action
Yes.
doing the STEM challenges. So thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Of course.
All right, so next I'd like to invite up our elementary principals to provide an update. Lana, would you like to begin?
Sure, I can start. If I can speak to the Proctor School's opening days. So our work started a little bit before with welcoming our staff back, and the Proctor School welcomed several new staff members this year. So we really spent that first day back together, building connections and reconnecting with each other in person. So we're very excited to have those new people with us, fresh perspectives, new ideas, and new skill sets. We're very excited for that. And we also spent the day preparing for our youngest learners to come in for a teddy bear picnic yesterday. So our kindergartners came in and they met the kindergarten teachers, brought their loveys and stuffed animals, and we read to them outside. They had a tour and a bus ride. So we wanted to thank NRT for sending a bus over so we could talk about bus safety and experience what the bus would be like. We also spent time with our kindergarten families as well, helping them to acclimate to what school will be like for themselves as well as their children. And then today was a very busy day. We welcomed many new families and students. The hallways were bustling with new faces and just getting to know students and helping them learn new routines. And each classroom just engaged all day in fun activities that would create those classroom communities. So it was just so nice to have the building back filled with the sounds of children and laughter and, you know, just everyone together. So we're excited about the year ahead and plan to spend the next couple of days and into next week and beyond continuing to build those routines, welcome our new students and help them adjust, and just to continue to build our classroom and school community.
The Z School also had a very busy day today. First, I want to thank my custodians, John Perazzi and Kevin Canero. The building looks great. We housed 2 summer programs, so getting things up and running were, I wouldn't say late, but because we had people in the building late, they really worked hard, and Bud and Keith as well. So really appreciate all that work. The building is looking very nice and staff is very happy. We as well welcome staff on Monday and Tuesday, 57 staff members at Z. 11 of them which are new, so that's a large population of new staff. So that was exciting to see new faces, make connections, and get to know your colleagues a little better. At Z also, we welcome a new program this year. We have Castle joining us, a Castle classroom with 6 students and a full staff. So that was exciting to see today in action and have those students there. So another program in the building along with the language-based I think adds to the flavor of our school and really helps to just build inclusivity in our building and have our students really recognize that, you know, all students belong in school. We also welcomed 248 students today, 20 of which were brand new to Z, as well as welcoming those students back from the remote program. We had 1/3 of the Z population in the standalone remote last year. So we have a lot of new faces in the building. So it was great to see them, and we'll be spending, you know, several weeks working on routines and systems to look at expectations for safety and for classroom movement and learning. So we look forward to all of that.
My updates for Lincoln Street School. So Aaron Gonzalez and Maria Barrows have been busy all summer preparing our school, and it looks amazing. We also hosted the Northborough Rec this summer, so Aaron and Maria had a lot to do last minute, and you'd never know that things were happening there other than cleaning this summer because it looks really great. Thank you to Keith and Bud for overseeing that. You know, we're always well prepared, and the school continues to be just as beautiful as it was when it opened. We started last week with a kindergarten brown bag lunch to get to know our kindergarten families. So they came in for a nice lunch and a tour of the school. So I think people felt a lot better having never been in the school, many of them, and just kind of getting to see their classmates and their teachers and just getting to know the lay of the land a little bit before school opened. I'd like to thank Linda Flanagan from our front office, who was busy all summer enrolling new students. We had many students coming and going over the summer, so I know that was a huge task this summer, and you know, they all showed up today, and we didn't have any unexpected visitors, so that's good. Everyone had a place. We started with our teachers on Monday and Tuesday, welcoming them back to the school and focusing again on building connections with one another and the importance of building connections with the community and with their students and colleagues. I'd like to thank the Lincoln Street School PTO who stocked the teachers' room for the teachers to return and feel welcomed and prepared to start the year. That's something that they're going to do throughout the year. They also bought Keurig for our staff room, so the teachers are highly caffeinated and ready to take on any challenge. And it was just great to see the kids all back in school today. It just feels like home when they're all there, and just everyone seemed really happy and adjusted, and we had a lot of new faces and some old kids that hadn't been there for a couple years now with COVID and the remote program, so it was just nice to have everyone back home.
So as you know, this is really my official start into a typical school opening, and I think I don't want to not mention that the fact that these three ladies have been a huge support. What I love most about what we're doing here in Northborough is we're together, we're planning. Everything that they mentioned is happening in all of our schools. So I really think that brings us together. We also had the kindergartners in for our pandas and pops. We welcomed our staff back. We had a very focused approach, all of us. We planned together. We focused on relationship building, but then gave teachers a look ahead as to what the work was for the year. And I feel like that the staff started the year with a very good sense of where we were going as a district, and I think that has been a really positive thing. Our students were eager to get back to work, as were our teachers. The mood was happy. It went very smoothly today. I also am proud to say that our fifth graders stepped up to escort younger students to classrooms, and it made it a very open and friendly atmosphere today, so that was really great. We too have welcomed a lot of new staff, and I think they were really, we took a lot of time to really select some high quality people, and they hit the ground running, and they're sitting right beside our teachers, our ESPs, our special educators. They're all together in the work, so we're all very proud of that. Our PTO also stocked our faculty room and really has helped us along the way with a lot of things that we have needed. Our custodial staff has worked really hard. Justin Gerard and Corey, Farley, they have worked really hard this year to help us get prepared. And so thank you for all of that.
Thank you so much. Do you have any questions or comments from committee members?
I just had one question. The Castle program at Z, is that in addition to the one at Peasley, or has it moved?
In addition, it came from Finn.
Okay.
And brought over to Z.
They do. Anyone else?
Can I just ask Principal Wright just to briefly speak about the donation of the bench?
So, sure. The Patizzi family reached out that they would like to donate a bench in recognition of the work that our nurses put forward to help their son at our school. So they were thinking of having a bench at the Lincoln Street School where students could go and just to feel welcome and safe, or just when they need a break or need to be in close proximity to the nurse's office. So that is something they had reached out and asked if they could donate to our school, so we gladly accepted.
And that's later on in the agenda, but I just wanted to give Principal Wright an opportunity to speak about it, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's great to hear that your buildings are lively again. I'm sure it's refreshing for all of you to see everyone back in school. I know it will be an adjustment for those students who have been learning from home the past year and a half. But I'm looking forward to updates come October as well. Thank you. Any last minute comments? Thank you so much, principals.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, and next I'd like to welcome Michelle Carb, the principal of Melican.
And Betty.
And the star of the show.
TV star.
Oh.
She needs to make an appearance too.
She should come on.
Come on up, Betty.
Come on, Betty.
She's a little tired from the first day. She was pretty busy today. This summer was really busy at Milliken, as it always is. We had the rec department with us for 5 weeks, and that went really smoothly, and it was really exciting just to have that in person and see just the life that is sort of breathed into the building in the summer. So that was really nice. And I do want to thank our facilities manager, as others have mentioned, Bud Richardson, and our custodians, Jose Baez and Dave Anastas. We did have another one, Pam Banks, who has moved over to Proctor, but she was with us for a lot of the summer. So they worked very hard. I also want to thank Nicole DeAngelis, our administrative assistant. She works all summer as well in the office, and I don't think that she has met a challenge that she can't face and figure out. She was able to get 530 schedules done. She has made changes over the last week and into today of schedules, and she's just really positive always. Very hard worker and very welcoming, and I just kind of want to give her a shout out. We, as everyone else mentioned, welcome back our staff on Monday, and we spent some time with professional development really thinking about this idea of rebounding from the pandemic, though we know we're not out of the pandemic, but instead of focusing on sort of this idea of a new normal, thinking about a next normal, and what are some of the takeaways from over the past 18 months or so that we can continue into our work into the future. I think we've learned a lot, and we want to make sure that we don't go back sort of to old ways when there's a lot that we can take away from what we've learned. So the staff is very engaged in that work and very excited to bring some of what they've learned over the past year and a half plus into kind of some of the things that they've done before and really think about what we've learned from it. So there was a lot of excitement, and I'm very proud of the staff for coming together and talking about it, building connections with our new staff. We hired a couple of long-term subs, and then we have a couple of other new staff members and some ESPs, and it was just really, really nice to get together in person as we celebrated returning. So that was exciting. Our students returned today, and happy and excited to be together. We welcome back, obviously, those who were in SARP all of last year. We had 22 students withdraw from Milliken since the end of school in June, and we, I think, are up to about 23 that have enrolled. So that's about a wash. As recent as yesterday, we had 2 new enrollments. So we are very excited about welcoming new students into the building, and we're excited about upcoming activities. Our sports programs are going to be starting in the next couple of weeks, along with our before and after school clubs. So we're really excited to get back to a much more typical kind of a school year.
Thank you so much, Michelle. Any questions or comments?
I thought the news that was great this morning. I know you didn't touch upon it tonight, and those of you who don't see it, Betty is the one of, I didn't realize there was a few schools that had therapy dogs in it. Yeah, that's amazing. So, but I think you were probably the first one, weren't you, in
Actually,
the longest, or was there?
Actually, Linda Murdoch, former principal at Neary School, had reading buddy dogs come in there. So she sort of, I think, helped put forth and help the school committee come up with a policy. And that was, I don't know how many years ago, but I think in terms of having a therapy dog that is also owned by a staff member. I think I was the first one in the district, but we currently have 4 dogs in the district and 4 different schools. So really excited to hopefully help other schools if they're interested. Certainly, as everybody knows who likes dogs, they certainly do provide comfort and help students when they're anxious. And I will say that today, some students were anxious, as you can imagine. Some staff members were as well. And I do think it helps people feel connected and calm. So thank you.
For anyone who wants to see that story, do you know what channel it was on? Was it WCVB?
WCVB Channel 5.
Okay, perfect. So that was a great email to get from Greg earlier today about that news coverage, and I'm glad that Betty is here to support our staff and our students. So thank you so much for your updates, Michelle.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And I just want to thank Betty for all of her work this year. Thank Michelle for all of her work.
I mean, it's been a long day. I gotta tell you. Huh.
She's taking tomorrow off.
All the excitement has gone right to her head too. She's gotten a lot of fans out of this. So. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next we have a transportation update, and as you know, the district has been working on changing the start time, in particular at the high school. And due to the complexity of our district, it's required all 10 schools to work together, our 3 districts to collaborate to find a solution for the high school. So today was the first day of implementation, and Assistant Superintendent of Operations, LaVoy, has done an excellent job planning, preparing for a smooth start, and he will share an update.
Great, thank you, Greg. I would be remiss if I didn't mention Jean Pinto, our transportation and registration assistant. She has worked tirelessly over the last 6 months in preparation for something that is genuinely brand new in so many different ways, and I think that's one thing that's going to be a focus of my update, is that we are learning. Every moment of today was another piece of information to process and learn from. But the work for today started 6 months ago, and we had a lot of good collaboration with NRT, North Reading Transportation, on not only the creation of the routes, but the different things that could happen. And we did reach out to drivers in advance, and that's kind of unique to our district. I think we're one of the only districts that allows for our drivers to have a lot of input on the creation of the routes, and those are allowed for different tweaks to kind of come in, and they will continue to come in. So I think one thing we're going to take from today is certainly acknowledge that buses were late today. There's no excusing that. We're looking at what created those delays. Some of them are simple adjustments that are going to be quick to make. A lot of it is just regular day one stuff that happens every year. So I don't want that to be lost in what we're trying to achieve. And obviously, what we learn on day one is just going to expand in day 2 and day 3. And I really appreciate the principals, the staff, and the community's patience throughout. We had a lot of great communication and dialogue with families today and schools about what went right and what didn't go right, and trying to track that as best we can. So certainly the feedback doesn't get lost, and we want to make sure that we just build off of it, but we also don't want to rush to change anything radical yet, and certainly there'd be a lot of time to process any of changes that would need to happen. So a shining moment of today, though, is that ridership was up considerably. That was one thing we did notice, and we're unsure of what to expect. We didn't think it would be as great as it was, but that was a pleasant surprise because it did diffuse some of the congestion in our parking lots that we had experienced last year. So once again, silver lining of COVID in different ways and how we're kind of getting back on track. The other thing that's worth noting about transportation is we are keeping up with some of our mitigation efforts, like the daily cleaning of our buses, and as is state mandate, the masking of all students and drivers, which we're holding to. And we're going to have to remind people after a long day in school, probably the first thing you want to do is pull down your mask, but we will be reminding students and drivers of that. But we got a lot of great compliance today on that, so it wasn't much of a concern at all. So I'd be happy to answer any individual questions, preferably not about a bus stop, but in general, or certainly about the preparation.
Thank you. I'm sure it's a huge logistical challenge to relaunch the school year during COVID with new bus routes. Certainly can appreciate all that, and I'm sure it's a work in progress. Were we fully staffed from a driver standpoint this morning? Did NRT provide all
Great question.
drivers this morning?
Yes.
They did. Okay.
NRT, we did get confirmation last week that all our buses were staffed, and we had a kind of feeling that they were. Our retention rate in Northborough and Southborough is outstanding. I think only 2 drivers in the entire district were, from another district prior, which is outstanding. They weren't necessarily driving the same route, that they had previously, which was part of the growing pain of today. But that was certainly something I can say we are in good standing of. And we are in continual communication. Greg and I are connecting with NRT to kind of get follow up on that topic and make sure we're in good standing going forward. And if we do have an issue for whatever reason, we usually work pretty well, and the schools are extremely great about being flexible about whether we're doubling up a route or having something that is delayed and has to be adjusted. So as of now, we're in very good shape for that. Thank you for bringing that up.
Thank you. Another? Were there general traffic issues this morning experienced that were well outside of our control and purview that we should look at, work with the police department or something?
Actually, Mr. Martineau experienced it directly. We did have a couple of places of congestion that we were able to get the police departments to support this afternoon, and it did alleviate some of it, specifically around Bartlett Street and Algonquin Regional. That's probably the place where we're focusing on the most. And in fact, we are making an adjustment for tomorrow afternoon about a traffic flow. So we are going to be able to make some small little adjustments with that, which will hopefully alleviate a little. And then how much of it was the first day? What I did hear from Algonquin administration is that the first day is always like this. Yeah. So, okay, how is that going to dilute naturally? And what do we have to do logistically to make it better? I think, as we know, there's not 5 different entrances to Algonquin. There's only 2. But how do we maximize it is going to be something that we knew we were going to be exploring this fall. So that's something that's on the docket with me and the administration at Algonquin.
2 maybe useful anecdotes. One is that we missed the bus this morning. I had a freshman drop off, and I've got 8th and 9th this year.
Yep.
And we were taking pictures, required, right?
Required.
And we'll be bus riders tomorrow, so it's one less car getting in the queue. The other anecdote is when I left Algonquin at 7:56, the line went almost to downtown on Route 20.
Right.
It was insane.
Right.
And I think it's probably just general people trying to get, it's probably through traffic, but I pitied the parents who were sitting in that line to do a drop-off. I'm sure there was some tardiness this morning.
There was a little, not as much as we thought when we did see that, which I did get a little bit of. I don't have solid numbers on it, but I did get some feedback that it wasn't as bad as it looked. But I don't know that for sure. But I did sense that the traffic was pretty strong.
There weren't people going to the high school.
Yeah. And then my last is more of a question. I think as a Melican parent, I'm realizing on the fly that the bus route, of course, for my son is longer because it goes to Algonquin, correct? So I think as far as, it's probably just a matter of managing expectations for the community, realizing like what we've, this redesign, right, with the transportation being routed differently and kind of collectively everybody tolerating some change in order to do the, zero budget, later start time at Algonquin, if you will, without adding buses. What would be like a sample of what amount of time a child would be on the bus before, and what is going to be more expected once it dilutes and settles? What is that delta? What are we up? Yeah, in terms of time for just
we have forecasts, but after today, I want to make sure that they are accurate. It's kind of hard. It's like a lot of this is on paper and not in practice yet. So I will be preparing that. We have what had been COVID, pre-COVID, and then what we're anticipating for this year. It certainly will be longer for Melican students, but what we found today is it wasn't as bad as we thought collectively when you take out some of the variables that didn't go perfectly smooth. So I would hate to give a number now and have it be 10-15 minutes different in a couple weeks. The hope is that it only improves.
Well, I mean, my message to my fellow parents would be that think about the drive from Melican to your house, and then think about the drive from Melican to Algonquin to your house. Right. And then add the first day of school and go from there.
That's right. That's a good place to start.
It's changed.
It has.
Yeah.
Right.
So just a couple comments. I agree. We have made changes to the routes, so that does impact our bus drivers. With any route, bus drivers need time to get acclimated with our routes, and that usually takes about 2 weeks. It also takes time for our bus drivers to get acclimated to families and students. So We're monitoring it closely, as Keith said, but today is not really a benchmark for what we're going to end up with in 2 weeks, and we just ask for the community's patience as we navigate some of these speed bumps. So I think,
and we got it today tremendously.
Yeah.
Parents were wonderful today collectively.
but I do think that traffic, we are working closely with the Northborough Police Department around helping manage traffic. There was a lot of traffic on the road today with St. Bernadette's, the high school, and and the weather doesn't help as well. So we're
Tomorrow
very
should
confident.
be really fun.
Yes.
Looking forward to it.
So, honestly, I'm very confident. Although today was not exactly how we wanted to go, it was actually a pretty good day in terms of first day busing, and I feel like we have a good foundation to improve on as we move forward.
I'm sure you're getting a lot of parent communications, and I understood a moment ago, it makes perfect sense probably to give a bit of time and see how it goes. But I also know you well enough to know that if anybody wants to reach out at any point, they should just go ahead and do so, and
Please
that
do. It is helpful. Like, we were able to correct a couple of things quickly because
Sure.
of parent input. So, I mean, those are things that it's all being reviewed and observed, and Jean has done a great job also of managing that and making sure that we don't overpromise and underdeliver. We want to make sure that if we are making an adjustment, that is something that we can sustain and it doesn't have a trickle effect down the line. So far we're in a pretty good position, like Greg said, to kind of let it breathe a little bit and see what happens. And I do 100% appreciate everyone's patience today, and the schools as well. The principals and their staffs were excellent in receiving the students and have dismissals for today's too.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Would you prefer that communication go through you, Greg, or go direct to Keith? I know they can probably look him up online.
No, Keith and Jean have been managing
Okay.
the emails, and
Direct.
we meet daily,
Okay.
and so we process those.
All right, excellent. Thank you so much.
You're
I know
welcome.
it's a huge task, and you're looking after it
Quite
very
a day.
diligently, so we appreciate it.
And to your point, also that the later start time at the high school level will impact all students. It just might take some students longer if they're in second grade or third grade to actually experience the benefit of a later start time at the high school. So it might take several years.
They're intertwined. It's a
Yes.
collective effort.
Kelly?
Did the app for the monitoring the buses, was that live yet?
It's
And-
not live yet. So
Okay,
here
that's what I
comes the
thought.
bus, the one that we launched last year.
Yep.
is no longer supported by NRT. They found something better.
Okay.
I've been working on that for a couple of months to get it ready for launch. It wasn't ready for a couple of reasons. But we are actually in the middle of that preparation now, and I hope to have it launched, in a couple of weeks, which hopefully will align with things settling down. So it's not just what we're seeing today. If the app was going today, I don't think it would have benefited anyone. So I think that we'll combine that, and I'll be sending out an invitation. And a lot of people have asked, and I've said it is coming soon, and it will be better. And the benefit of it is it doesn't require a lot of data exchange. It's going to be like a parent subscribing to a route and then being able to watch it with a special code. Yeah, versus, okay, the bus routing data has to match the parent's request, and that didn't always go well. So we learned a lot, and we now have I think we're going to have a better application for everyone.
Keith, I
Yes.
have a question about so the ridership numbers. You said
Yes.
that they were elevated compared to what you were expecting. So were there any cases in which they were so elevated, there weren't enough seats on a bus, or where that might be a problem in the future?
Typically, on the first day of school, we will have routes that are overcrowded. We also learn from a lot of families that we're going on day one, but we're not going to be there day 2 through 180. But we wanted to get a feel for where the bus was in the event of the need coming. So we're expecting that to level out slightly. But we did have a couple of buses we identified that we had more than normal, and we'll be making adjustments pretty quickly to that to make sure that we are in good shape. But we do not have any capacity issues. It might be a preference of where to sit versus a capacity piece. We did experience that a little bit today.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Welcome.
So then I'll just ask Keith to give a brief update on facilities. We have an amazing facilities team preparing over the summer, the start of the school year, and Keith will provide a quick update.
Yeah, so I'm so glad that the many of the principals mentioned our custodians, but certainly Bud Richardson for his work as the facilities manager to oversee the 5 schools and ready them. The team has been working tirelessly from the very beginning of COVID to keep up with all the changes that we've endured. So this summer was a lot about the maintenance that we weren't doing because we were focusing a lot on the cleaning and sanitation last year. So we got caught up on a lot of those miscellaneous items that had been kind of piling up a little bit. We also were able to have Algonquin students serve as summer custodians this year. So we had a small team of Northborough and Southborough residents in the 2 towns, and they were extraordinary. I got a lot of great reports, even from the custodians, saying thankfully they were here because they were able to just do enough to get us through a hot day or whatever the case may be. So that was really extraordinary. Off the bat, I think the group did a great job getting things ready. August was a little challenging because it was more humid, and that didn't make things, it slowed down the pace a little bit. But like all the principals said, I think the buildings look fantastic. We got a lot of great feedback on them from teachers and parents alike. So it's a great way to start the year, knowing that the buildings are in good condition for this beginning. So nothing major, no major projects. A lot of maintenance types things that crept up over the summer.
And I'll just add that we did, in partnership with the town, we were able to repair part of the back walkway in the back of Melican. There was an area by the Pine Grove that was, with roots, there was a lot of damage, so the town department actually dug that out, fixed the walkway, and it's now a smooth pathway for our students and bikers and walkers. So that's just another example of the collaboration between the town and the school department.
Betty can do sprints now without tripping over a root, so we're in good shape.
Kelly?
I remember my husband when he was in high school. His summer job was they would go in and they would paint the schools and stuff, and they would help with the painting and stuff. And when you said that, it just reminded me of that. That's what.
Great opportunity.
Yeah.
We had a lot of applicants, but we were selective to make sure that we could, get the work done because there was a lot that needed to be done, and so it went very well. It was a great team of students.
Yeah. So this was the first time they've ever.
We had done it before.
Yeah.
Last year we did not because of the protocols and things like that. We just decided to take a year off, and this year I got tremendous feedback across the board.
Yeah.
So it was a good summer for him.
I just remember the experience for him. It was nice because it also gave them pride of the schools and of their community, and to see all that.
Many of the students were able to go back to the elementary schools they went to.
That they grew up at, and they got to see it, reflect
combo.
on it. So that's nice.
All right, thank you so much for your updates.
Pleasure.
All right, and then lastly, we have Mary Ellen Duggan, who will provide us with an update around COVID-19 and the mitigation efforts that are in place. And we were hoping we'd be in a little bit of a different place this time of year. However, COVID is very unpredictable. And I will say from 1 year ago today, we are in a much better place. And we're very fortunate to have the leadership of Mary Ellen guiding us through the mitigation protocols as we reopen our schools.
So not that I don't love spending time with all of you, but I was really hoping we would not have this standing first Wednesday night of the month date. But the Delta variant had different ideas and has secured my plans for Wednesday evenings for the near future. To update you, school started today. COVID's still with us. We have applied for the DESE testing and screening program that I'm sure you've all heard of in the news and whatnot, and we're waiting for details about our project managers and coordinators and all of our supplies. The hope is to get it up and running by the end of September for all students and staff. In the meantime, we're offering weekly pooled screening for our staff using the same company we used last year, and we used them throughout the summer with ESY also. My public health announcement for today is mitigation matters, and this is really where we need to focus our attention. To make our schools as low risk as possible, we need a community commitment to the mitigation strategies that we know work. As a district, we continue to commit to optimizing ventilation, cleaning and disinfecting, promoting hand hygiene, providing PPE, testing and screening programs, and prompt and accurate contact tracing. but we need the rest of the whole community at large to also commit with us. That includes parents, students, teachers, and staff to commit to the mitigation strategies of monitoring for symptoms and staying home when you're sick. This is, I implore everybody, I cannot say how important this is for us to all stay safe. To wearing a mask when indoors, participating in the testing and screening programs, and if you are eligible, to get vaccinated. We have to remember that Swiss cheese model that we talked about last year. Each additional layer decreases each one of our risks. So please remember that every mitigation strategy matters, and we all are in this together. So that really is my update. I just want to stress that we all need to do our part to keep our schools as safe as possible for everybody in them. And I'm open to any questions you might have.
Sorry.
We'll start with Erin and then we'll go to Kelly.
I might not have the answers. We did invite some of the medical advisory team. They were not available this evening. Some are at athletic night with their high school students and whatnot, but I do have them on speed dial. They are my phone a friend if I can't answer.
Okay. So my question is, why are we switching to the state testing? Like, we were so hesitant to do it last year. Has there been changes to it that make it a better option this year?
There have been changes that on paper, as we all know, look like a much better option.
Okay.
The first is that it's free.
Okay. That's
Free.
good.
It's free. So it's free, it's for me. No, seriously. The first is that it's free.
Okay.
The second is that they have guaranteed to send us all of the support we need to make this program work. So if we have, they will send us the support we need to scan all the tests, and they will send us the support we need to do the testing.
Like
So
people?
People.
Okay.
People, they will send us the PPE if we need PPE. So there are a lot of things, and I think with the state program, the way that it's set up, it's going to keep our kids in school.
Okay.
Is ultimately, and that's what we want, kids in the seats in the school building, and that's what it will help do.
Okay. I just know last year we were hesitant with it because it's not a take-home test.
Oh,
Correct.
So this is, they do have a take-home option.
Okay.
They do have a take-home test option that that's the one that we will be employing.
Great. And then what about if it's pooled screening and there's a positive? Are they able to identify the positive now?
Yes.
Okay.
So right now, to start, the take-home option they have is a saliva test with the hopes that by the end of September, we're hoping mid to late September, that this company would have their EUA for a nasal swab for take-home.
Okay.
So we have got our fingers crossed that it's going to be very similar to last year when we get it started up.
Okay. That's all good news.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And then are we participating in the test and stay? That is part of our...
So that's part of it. So when
Okay.
we did say that we wanted to, because that's going to help keep our kids in school.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Kelly, did you have a question? I saw your hand before.
I did. That one I can't remember. I'm sure it'll come back to me. When is there a scheduled time for it to start for the kids, or for testing, weekly testing, or is it just staff, or?
Right now, we're just doing staff.
Okay.
Because I think the reason why we're not including the students in it right now, because I think it would just be confusing to have people that didn't sign up to sign up now, and then in 3 weeks need to sign up for a whole new program.
Okay, because
And we
it's.
saw that confusion, how it played out last year with our staff, because we did 3 different portals and 3 different programs. So we
Okay.
saw how confusing that was for our staff. So I think the best thing to get the most participation is just to wait and start with one program and continue with that one program for the year.
Okay, and so there's no exact start date yet?
I'm hoping for the end of September at the latest.
To start, okay,
Yes.
to do the testing. And then I did remember what the question was. Is there a health sheets that people should be doing before kids go to school still? Like questionnaires, I think last year you had like the check sheets and.
Yep, there is.
And
There's nothing that they need to sign off, but it's the same community commitment, going through the symptoms, going through if they've been exposed to anybody. And there is no travel, really, restrictions right now, but thinking about high-risk behaviors that might you know, if you're symptomatic plus a high-risk behavior, that would make a larger red flag go up. But there is that checklist that it was included in Mr. Martineau's, all of his communications that he sent home, and we'll make sure it's highlighted again tomorrow.
And temperature taking, is that done, that's not done like entering into
No, we've
schools or
never
anything?
done
No,
that.
no, no, okay. And do they, I know, I think last year they did like the hand squirting and stuff for kids going in schools. Do they still do that
I
stuff?
mean, the hand sanitizer is still there at the beginning, nobody's standing there squirting.
No one's
anybody's
squirting
hands.
and things like that, so that's, okay.
Thank you, Kelly. Keith?
Yes, thank you. I'm going to forget mine, so I'm just listening to.
I know, that's what happened to me. It'll come back to you. It'll come back to you.
Oh, you said that it's going to be a saliva test, but we're hoping for a nasal swab with the state program. Would it still be the anterior, the small, like a Q-tip, the anterior
Yes.
nasal swab?
Yeah, for the take-home test, it will be, yes.
Can you remind us what kind of meeting schedule either of you you're on with the medical advisory team? Like, just kind of looking forward the next like 4 to 8 weeks. What's the interval? What's the checkpoints? What are we watching? You know, to see if we're in the right spot or mitigation seems to be more or less.
Oh, sure. So our medical advisory team meets every Tuesday afternoon. We've been meeting for the past few weeks. And we've talked every time about what data will we look at, what's important. I think when we're thinking about, we'll look at our cases in the school. We'll look, just as we did last year, we'll look at if there's any spread in the school, any transmission, in-school transmission. Well, when we're trying to make decisions, we'll look at vaccine rates in the schools. We'll look at our community numbers, the town numbers, and our, you know, district numbers and the county numbers when we're trying to figure out which way is this heading. There's lots of data that's available to us that we do look at.
Will we have a dashboard again this year like we did?
We will have a dashboard updated on Sunday evenings, same as before. We will not probably be testing, we'll be testing on a different day of the week. I believe we'll probably be testing on Mondays, but we'll see, Mondays or Tuesdays, the beginning of the week. But those details are to come.
I know this is probably more for like the older grades, but it kind of trickles through the things. When we do get to the point of vaccination rates and looking at vaccination rates and things like that, somebody brought up to me and asked me, are they going to be looking at like building vaccination rate, or will they break it down to student vaccination rate and to staff vaccination rate? Because like if, say there's 90% of the staff that's vaccinated, you know, but less kids, then it would be a different number.
So that's one of the things that we've actually spoken about at medical advisory team, because if you look at our state numbers, if anybody's looked at the state dashboard, it says that we have greater than 95% of our 16 to 19-year-olds and 80-something% of our 12 to 15-year-olds. But when you look at the census data that's included there, say we have 676 or so 12 to 50, 16 to 19-year-olds, but 700 and something are vaccinated. So the census data that they have and what our actual census data is a little bit off. So that's why our numbers are so high. When we ran our numbers of the information we have from the MIIS, which is the Massachusetts Immunization Information System, our numbers at the high school, we can do it by grade level.
Okay.
So we talked in the medical advisory team about it wouldn't be an average, it would be each level had to reach that point.
Okay.
Not as an average, but that will be a discussion that's still happening and still is ongoing.
Thank you. I'm Mary Ellen. So the testing through the state is screening. Is there any opportunity for someone who's symptomatic to then, through the state testing, through the schools, get tested if they have symptoms?
So there's 3 parts to the state program. There is the diagnostic testing, which is for symptomatic people if they become symptomatic at school. So if they came to the nurse and were displaying some symptoms of COVID, and the nurse would test them and then follow a protocol from there. Then there is the test and stay, which is for people who are identified as close contacts at school. And they would have, the diagnostic test is not a PCR, it's a Binax Now antigen test that's done in the nurse's office. The test and stay is also a Binax Now antigen test, rapid antigen test, and that is done 7 days for up to day 7 after your last exposure for the close contact. So they would, if you were a close contact, you would come into school every day. Our support team from CIC would be there to administer the testing to whoever the close contacts was. And then if they were negative, they could go on to class. If they were positive, would follow another whole protocol. So those are the two diagnostic things that we have. We have brought this up at our medical advisory team about having the ability to do PCR testings. We do have 2 local free testing sites. The one at Marlborough Hospital, the Stop the Spread site, is still open, although the hours had decreased markedly. They're on the rise again. They're 3 days now, 9 to 1. And then we have Project Beacon in Framingham. And there are also lots of local pediatricians' offices do have rapid PCR availability. So we talked about that, and we're still in discussions about, would we do the same things we did last year and offer the individual PCR tests on those for symptomatic people. So there's a lot of discussion about symptomatic testing for people who are symptomatic at home. So.
Great, thank you so much. I expect some type of update in October for sure.
I'll be here. My standing Wednesday evening.
Perfect. Excellent. We're all set.
All right.
Thank you so much, Mary Ellen.
No problem.
Thank you.
And I'll just conclude the summer update by, again, acknowledging the hard work of the central office leadership team, principals, and also just want to acknowledge our educators, our faculty and staff. They are well prepared, excited to teach our students, and we couldn't be more fortunate to have a team of teachers teaching our students, so we're very fortunate. So I think we're off to a good first day, and it feels great to have a little bit more sense of normalcy, although I will point out that we still are in a pandemic, and we're still not exactly where we would hope to be, but we're making progress. So thank you.
Thank you. All right, so we are going to continue. Are there any other people who need to give a school reopening update, Greg?
I think we are good.
We're good.
So I'll just point out that Heather Richards will give an update during the personnel report.
Great.
So
thank you so much. All right, so we're going to move on to our legislative updates. There are no legislative updates at this time. So that means that we can move on to item number 3 under new business, which is our subcommittee and liaison assignments for this year. I know that in your packets, which are on your computers, you have the subcommittee assignments. Keith, I know that you volunteered to be the operational budget subcommittee chair. Thank you so much. And Kelly, you have then volunteered to be the chair of the collective bargaining subcommittee. So thank you so much. And at this time, there are no other changes unless you see anything that needs to be changed tonight.
No, I just had a question. I know the solar feasibility study, we talked about that a little bit. What is we're going to do? I mean,
so we'll be the solar feasibility group will be convening the month of September.
Okay.
And we have a number of potential projects in the queue.
Okay.
And we'll be continuing those conversations shortly. And Keith will be sending out invitations to that meeting shortly.
Great.
And then, Kelly, were you on the email? I know, Keith, you had sent an email this summer about that. Did you receive that email from Keith? I received it.
You received it, I believe.
So,
yes.
so
I will
Kelly
update that.
is on that committee. Thank
Very
you
good.
so much, Keith.
You're welcome.
Well, that would be wide.
That would be wide.
Stop.
All right. Anything else before we move on? All right, we're going to move on. Oh, yeah. Kelly.
and maybe this is the other thing, I'm just the building and grounds thing. Are we gonna do that again this year? Do you
So
think? It's gonna.
we're not going to tour the
Okay.
buildings just because we still are in a pandemic,
Yep.
and we thought it
Okay.
it didn't make sense this year.
Yep.
We might do the tours this spring
Okay.
if things change over time.
Okay.
So.
Great question. Thanks, Kelly. We're going to move on to approval of grants and donations. So we have several donations that we're looking to approve today. Greg, would you like to give some background?
Sure. So Principal Wright shared the information about the bench, and we have a very generous donation of $1,000 that went to the Northborough School Lunch Program from Capobianco Law. So a very generous donation. And then we had Stephanie. Do you want to speak to the donations from Amazon?
You want me to do Amazon or Arrow Coffee?
Sorry, Arrow Coffee. I should put my glasses on.
So Arrow Coffee Roasters donated some gift cards that we used with the Summer Acceleration Academy, specifically with the older students. We did a lot of lotteries and incentives, and so we are very appreciative for two $25 gift cards.
Excellent. Thank you. All right, so I'm looking for a motion to approve these grants and donations. Keith?
I move that we approve the following grants and donations. A donation of a bench from the Costizzi family to Lincoln Street School. Donation of $1,000 to Northborough School Lunch Program from Capobianco Law. Donation of two $25 gift cards to the Summer Acceleration Academy from Arrow Coffee Roasters.
Second. Aaron can do it.
All right, so we have a motion from Keith and a second from Erin. Any discussion? All right, and I've been waiting to say this for, a year and a half. We can use our hands. There's no roll call vote. All those in favor? Excellent. So it passes unanimously. Thank you so much to the Postizzi family for the bench, to Capobianco Law for the donation to the school lunch program, and also to Arrow Coffee Roasters for those donations as well. So thank you. All right, our old business brings us to our Coalition for Equity update. I'll pass it on to Mr. Martineau.
Sure. So I'd like to welcome back Rhoda Webb. As you know, our strategic plan, Vision 2026, has a strategic objective of equity of opportunity. And part of our work is really looking at providing equitable opportunities for all students. As you know, last year we started a coalition, and that coalition will continue, and Rhoda will speak about some of the upcoming work the coalition will be involved in.
Yes, so as our new school year has started, we're looking forward to reconvening the Coalition for Equity for this year. If you remember in June, we were able to, in spite of the pandemic, achieve significant projects and tasks in partnering with our district. And this year, what we started last year will be continued at the district and school level. So looking forward to this year when we start with our first meeting, which will be announced very soon. We're going to explore how the Coalition for Equity can partner with the district in the power of connections, which is a district theme for this year. So the first meeting, we're going to brainstorm which are ways that we can make connections within our communities, focus on equity. So there'll be more information to come, but we're looking forward to this new year and to be able to really now meet in person, because it makes such a difference to be able to do this very important work in person rather than on Zoom. So we look forward to giving more information as it comes along.
Rhoda, would you mind just speaking briefly about the equity audit as well?
Right. So if you remember, we talked about that the district was embarking on the equity audit, and we have partnered with Mass Insight, which is an organization with whom we've been meeting since June. And they're going to help us take a look at many different areas in our district, and through focus groups and through surveys, be able to reach out to our community with sending surveys to families and to all the different levels within the districts and students, that's our secondary students, middle school and high school students, to be able to get perception data on what areas we are doing really well in and areas in which we need to focus on. And that will give us a roadmap as regards what we need to work on in the years to come regarding being a more equitable district. So we're really looking forward to them. The meetings are very well organized, highly organized, we should say, very professional. And the surveys will be launched very soon.
Thank you, Rhoda.
You're welcome.
Any questions from our committee? All right, I don't see anything, Rhoda, but we look forward to your update on once the meetings get started again this year.
Thank you.
Thanks. All right, so next we have agenda item D, which is the superintendent's report to the committee. I'll turn it over to Mr. Martineau.
Sure, so I'll begin with enrollments. So as we ended the school year, we were very curious to see what our enrollments would look like this September. So we've been monitoring it very closely. We have had a lot of students enroll and a lot of students unenroll. In the month of October, I'll give a report around how many new students enrolled and how many students withdrew. But right now, our total student population for the public schools of Northborough is 1,541, which is 5 students greater than the NESDEC projections, which is interesting. We were actually anticipating reduced enrollment from FY21, so that is a trend we weren't expecting. In terms of class size, we've been monitoring class size very carefully over the summer. According to our class size policy, we do have several classrooms that are at cap. And this summer, we did make a decision to add a first grade classroom to our elementary schools. And that classroom was added to Peaslee because all of our first grade classrooms across the schools were at our class size policy ceiling. So Peaslee, we added a first grade classroom, and then that allows us more space for new enrollments in terms of first grade. In terms of other spaces for students, new enrollments, we do have space in other grade levels, so I think we are in a good place at this point in time. And again, we'll be monitoring it very closely over the next few weeks, and we'll have a more detailed report in the month of October. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Kelly?
So are the new enrollments, are some of those people who unenrolled last year to do like homeschooling and then they're like coming back, or are they new, like as in like they've never been in our district before, like moved to town?
So we have many families who were homeschooling who returned.
Yeah.
But we also are seeing a lot of families moving into the community of Northborough. So I would say it's more of new families moving in than homeschooling families re-enrolling.
Greg, there's been some emails to the Northborough School Committee just about how to enroll. And so just for families wondering, how should they enroll?
So great question. And we have moved into the 21st century. So we actually, as you know, launched Power School last year. And part of that process now, we have an online enrollment system. So if folks visit our website, they can find information about how to enroll, and it's all electronic. And families are more than welcome to call our schools as well, and we can walk people through the process.
The individual schools or central office?
Central office or any of
Either.
that
Okay.
individual schools, and they can walk them through the steps required.
Okay, thank you so much.
And just acknowledge Jean Pinto too. That was a project that Jean Pinto took on. Her role as transportation and registrar assistant. So she has a dual function. So
It's a very important job.
done an outstanding job.
And the most complained about things.
So next in the superintendent's report is the fiscal year 21 final budget, and I just want to acknowledge the great work of our finance department led by Becky Pellegrino. They always seem to be living in multiple worlds, so ending fiscal years, beginning fiscal years, trying to navigate the COVID grants. It's been a very challenging financial landscape, and our finance team has done an outstanding job, and Becky will share the end of year financial report with the school committee, and then move into the monthly fund general expenditure report, and then briefly talk about the COVID-19 related financials.
So as you can see, we closed out fiscal year 21 with no money remaining on the bottom line, which is always a great way to end the year. Many of the areas where we saw overages really can be attributed to the COVID-19 pandemic. Those were areas like teacher salary due to our many models of teaching last year, nurses' salaries, heating and building maintenance. Conversely, we also saw savings in areas that we were anticipating, again, due to the pandemic, and that was due to professional development and instructional materials, since we were able to really capture those items through the grants that we received. General supplies and transportation also saw savings. One line that I did want to point out to you is the food service line. As you can see, there was $18,891 that was included in the FY21 budget. For the 2020-2021 school year, the Northborough food service program did end the year with a deficit of $8,709, which, given all of the variables last year and the increase in the materials that were needed to produce these meals, really was a great job by the food service department. The remaining $10,181 was used to tie out our liability account. And what that means is basically we need to set up a liability account whenever we receive funds for something that we ultimately have to put that money towards. So a liability account in this case would be for those student meals where they've put money on their My School Bucks account, and that money is sitting there waiting for them to spend it. We are revising and looking at our accounting practices and working closely with the town on that. And we have a great new financial accountant, Sunny Cox, who has joined us. So we've really been able to look at our practices, and this was one area that we wanted to make sure that we were in compliance with, and so we used that remaining money to make sure that we were tied out with the town on our My School Bucks account. So that's why that additional money was included in the FY21. But I just have to say, adding Sunny to our team this past 6 months has been great, and she's been a wonderful fit, especially as we close out FY21, and we are now embarking on filing our end-of-year report for FY21, which is a monumental feat to do it in one district, never mind 3. So we're happy to have her to help us.
And she's at central office, or she's through town? She's in.
And it's not necessarily a new position. We were contracting out for the work. So over the past, I think, 4 years, we were using a firm.
Yep.
And we thought that it was important to have our own accountant. And we were very fortunate to hire someone with great expertise, and it's made a significant difference.
We've tried to go out a few times to find the right person, and I guess the third time was the charm, because she's been a great addition. She is a Southborough resident, so she's familiar with the district as well. So moving on to FY22, as of yesterday, actually August 31st, on the report that you have, we had $565,380 remaining, or 2.19 remaining on the bottom line. I do want to point out that when we ran this report last week, we had not been able to capture all of the out-of-district special education tuitions and put those onto circuit breaker as we normally do. Over the past week, we've been working very closely with Marie and the Student Support Services team, and we have been able to move over those tuitions onto circuit breaker. So I'm proud to say that with that adjustment, if we were to rerun that report as of today, we would have $1,549,374, or 6.01 remaining, which is a little bit closer to where we've run the past few years. So that really was the difference in the report that you have compared to where you were. The finance team has been busy over the summer. Alina Dacco is the financial coordinator for Northborough, setting up new employees, making sure that all of the encumbrances for our utilities, for all of our transportation costs, things that we know are encumbered in the budget, so that we have a pretty good plan of where we're headed for this fiscal year. Any questions? All right. Looking forward to our. Do you have one, Kelly?
No, I was just gonna say, do we have to do two separate ones, like the end of year and then?
Yes, we do.
Okay. And do we have the right numbers that we have to?
The number that you have is accurate as of August 31st, and what was submitted to the school committee. The number I gave you was as of today, so which is technically September 1st. So
I see. Okay. So you'll see that reflected.
I just wanted to let you know that
Yeah.
we had done some work to adjust that.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much, Becky. So before you go on to COVID-19 related financials, we are going to look for a vote to approve the FY21 final budget, as well as the FY22 monthly general fund expenditure report.
And then so, you know how we usually say until audited?
Yes.
It's still until audited? So when does it get audited?
The fiscal year 21 will be audited by the town. It's normally done late fall, early winter, and then FY22 will not be until next year.
Great question.
So we
keep
always,
saying.
so we always just say until audited, until audited, until audited. So I can make a motion to approve until audited the final fiscal year 2021 end of year general fund expenditure report. Sorry about that. June 30th, 2021.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Kelly and a second by Keith. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor? Great, it passes unanimously. Thank you so much. I'm looking for another motion for our monthly general fund expenditure report.
I can make a motion for that, to approve until audited the fiscal year 2022 budget monthly general fund expenditure report as of August 31st, 2021.
Second. Thank you, Erin. I have a motion from Kelly and a second from Erin. Any discussion? All those in favor? It passes unanimously. Thank you so much. And Becky, back to you for COVID-19.
And I know you're going to miss my COVID report that I gave every month, but I'm just going to give you some numbers tonight. So we have fully expended the grants that we talked about in June. The state coronavirus prevention fund, which was $55,225. The CVRF grant, which was $346,050, and then the remote learning technology essentials grant, which was $3,737. That one was the game changer. So we have worked very closely, though, also with the town of Northborough over the past few months to move an additional $106,035 onto the town's CVRF grant, or you may have heard it called the CARES Act funding. And we've also moved $3,836 to their FEMA submission as well, and that was based on some changes at FEMA that took place as of January 21st. We had purchased the majority of our masks prior to that, and so this is just a small portion of some masks that we purchased in the spring. In fiscal year 22, we have also fully expended our ESSER 1 allocation, and that totals $41,057, and the majority of that did go to Chromebooks, devices for our students, and then also for teacher devices. This summer, we did apply for ESSER 2, and so there's a whole line of ESSER funding that's coming out. We did receive $165,518 in ESSER funding. We have 2 years to expend those funds, and we do have to designate $10,000 of that allocation towards supporting our student mental health needs. And then over the next month, we will be applying for the ESSER 3 grant, which I think is the final round of COVID funding. I guess that's still to be determined. But that we do have our amount, and that is $349,517, and 20% of that amount does need to be reserved to combat any learning loss or instructional time loss. So we are readying that application, and we'll come up with a plan for those funds and how those will be expended.
I do have a question about the ESSER 3 grant. So the program that Stephanie was talking about earlier, where we had our learners in our school buildings this summer who maybe needed to have additional learning this summer due to COVID deficits. Do you imagine that that money could be used to then carry this program forward into next summer as well?
So we've actually looked at a few things with the ESSER 2 funds, and Stephanie, feel free to jump in because you were part of this process. We did set money aside so that we could include some tutoring services and some remediation services during this school year. But yes, we can utilize these funds for summer, for next summer.
Yeah, so we anticipate that there'll probably be additional grants similar to what was provided this summer from DESE, but we are able to use the ESSER 2 and ESSER 3 funding to support our students. That's the primary purpose of the funding. And we also have multiple years to expend the funds. So we're being very cautious around looking ahead, looking 1 and 2 years out in terms of what our needs will be. And we're also trying to ensure that we're not adding new positions to the budget through this funding because it is one-time funding, and once the money is spent, there's no replacement for that money. So we're being very proactive and thoughtful of how we'll spend it, but we are able to remediate and help support our students.
Thank you. Kelly?
You mentioned devices. So essentially last year we went to one-to-one in the whole district. What's happening to all that this year? I know today, like for example, my 3rd grader came home with a Chromebook. But my 4th grader was very upset because she did not. And she's like, how come she's got one and I don't have one, you know? And so
we are, Julie and Maurice will be presenting at the combined meeting, but we are still a one-to-one district. I think that was a silver lining out of the pandemic. We were moving toward it, but it accelerated our one-to-one initiative.
Yeah.
So every student will be issued a device, and if it didn't happen today, you can assure your daughter that it will happen in the next
so every
days.
kid will get a now. Because I noticed this one, insurance papers did not come home with it.
So
is that
we'll
not
be providing more information about that in the next couple of weeks.
Okay.
Some of you may have already seen that information through the technology department. It is then coming from the principals in general, and there's information about the one-to-one, and in it there is a link for insurance options.
Okay.
So some may have already seen it, and some it may be coming in like a principal communication.
The $10,000 to support student mental health needs, have you discussed any ways that we're going to use that funding, or do you have any plans for that?
We haven't had any formal conversations around, how we're going to use that funding. And again, this is the nature of the grant where we can spend it over a period of time.
Okay.
So obviously, Jennifer Lipton O'Connor, who's our SEL coordinator, Marie Allen and her department will be looking very closely at making sure that we spend it well. And most likely, we'll spend more than that amount to support our students.
Therapy dogs for all.
That'd be great. Let's sign Michelle up.
Every school gets a new therapy dog.
A one-to-one dog.
A one-to-one dog.
You get to go. We're on the wrong path there, right?
Any other questions for Becky? All right.
Thank you so much, Becky, for all
Oh,
your
sorry.
reports.
One more.
Oh, sorry, one
It's
more.
quick.
Keith.
It's not a question. It's a ever so thankful. Always,
Mm-hmm.
always know your numbers. They're always prepared. We appreciate it, and we know your leadership has been critical to getting through the pandemic and working all the finances through it. Much appreciated.
Very appreciated.
Thank you.
That moves us on to capital projects and improvements.
So just a quick update. We are in the process of updating our capital plan, and we'll be working closely with Town Administrator John Kader on thinking about some of the larger projects. We had planned last spring to submit a statement of interest for some of the building accelerated repair projects in Northborough, and we'll be having more conversations with the town around how some of those projects fit into the town's larger capital plan. So at the October meeting, we'll have a more in-depth plan to share with you. But some of those needs continue in terms of roofs, in particular at Z School, and that primarily will be the major focus of this capital plan.
Thank you. So that brings us to our budget goals, which you have in your packets.
Yeah, so we spent, as you know, the committee spent a lot of time aligning its budget goals to the strategic plan. I think it's served us well through last year's budget process. So what I thought, if folks could take a close look at these goals, and then at the October meeting, we can make any tweaks and changes to these at that meeting. So just more of the informational piece.
I remember we worked quite a bit last year on these, so feeling confident about them, but if you have anything you want to change or add, it would be great to bring that forward in October.
Yeah, definitely want to take out the tuition-free kindergarten line. We're just gonna put that out right there.
That's
The satisfaction.
You can leave it through with a strike through, so you can still
I
see
want to
it.
keep it there. Oh, it's just the little red line through it. Like, or how about a big check mark next to it?
That's
Like,
satisfaction, crossing it off the list.
yeah.
And then lastly in your packet is the proposed budget calendar. So Cheryl Leffery filled in our dates, our tentative dates, and we will begin the budget process in the next couple of weeks for FY23. And again, this document's a great document to help kind of guide thinking about pacing of the budget process. So that is in your packet for your reference. And that concludes the superintendent's report to the committee.
Thank you so much. Any additional questions for Greg? All right, thank you. So that moves us on to agenda item E, which is school committee member reports. Does anyone have anything they'd like to report tonight? It's early in the year, so we don't have much to report. I just wanted to say more to the community. I know this is the first time that we've met in about a year and a half in person. Right before the pandemic hit, we actually decided to go paperless. So for anyone who's looking, if you see our computers out, there is a reason why. We typically don't have our computers out, but we are looking at all of our papers on our computer. So we are not,
Instead of our staff
we are not
like
being
this.
rude. Exactly. And I think we had made that decision the meeting before COVID happened. So, and then we were forced to go paperless anyways.
Yeah.
So that's just sort of what I wanted to say. All right, there's no educational policy at this time, which moves us on to agenda item G. So there are several policies in your packets. And the policy subcommittee met earlier, I believe in August. And so we have recommended several policies to rescind that you can see listed here. So we have G100, employment of persons diagnosed with HIV or AIDS. G140, which is teacher separation, G150, which is use of computers, and G180, which is extension of time to gain credits.
I'll make a motion to rescind employment of personal diagnosis with human immunodeficiency virus, HIV, acquired immune deficiency syndrome, AIDS, G100. Also, teacher separation, G140. use of computers, G150, and extension of time to gain credits, G180.
Discussion. I know the majority of us are on the policy subcommittee, so we did have discussion this summer. But any conversation?
I'm not on it, and I went through them.
Yeah, I don't think I made that one for whatever reason, so maybe just a bit more background would be helpful.
Absolutely. Guys, you want me to take that?
Sure.
Sure. So the G100 policy about HIV is outdated. Basically, it is now law that we cannot discriminate against anyone with HIV and AIDS. The teacher separation, I actually need to refresh my memory about that one.
Heather can speak to that too.
Yes, it was a one-line policy. Heather.
Yeah, right. It's not necessary. If teachers don't work and they separate, then their time would be prorated.
Excellent.
Anyhow.
Thank you, Heather. The use of computers, G150, we do have language that's similar in our new user policy. Can someone give me
Responsible use.
Thank you, the responsible use policy. So we did not need that anymore. And extension of time to gain credits. That was also a one-liner. Heather, could you help me with that one as well?
I would.
The policy did state that this policy describes the superintendent's discretion regarding academic credits and salary advancement. I believe it's because it's in our union contract. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Thank you. So those are the reasons for rescinding those policies.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor of rescinding? Great, it passes unanimously. So now we're going to review our existing policy, which is A170, our face coverings policy.
So I can just give some context to this. So a year ago, on September 2nd, the combined committee, so the committees of Northborough, Southborough Regional voted to adopt a face covering policy as a result of the pandemic. That policy still is in place, and my recommendation is to continue with this policy at this point in time. The Commissioner of Education was granted the authority by the Board of Education to issue a mask mandate pre-K through 12, actually age 5 through grade 12, which basically mandated masking in all public schools for students and staff. We are waiting to hear from the Commissioner what will happen after October 1st, but the current communication is that students who are unvaccinated will still be required to wear masks, and faculty and staff who are unvaccinated as well. And if districts reach the 80% threshold of vaccination, then districts can determine if they want to remove the masking policy. So my recommendation is to leave the policy in place at least through the month of, until the next meeting. And then we'll have better data to see what our COVID-19 rates and transmission is within our school setting. We'll also have a sense of what the Commissioner will do in terms of maybe extending the mask mandate or providing more guidance to districts.
The Governor's mask mandate, or the Commissioner's mask mandate, is that through the end of September?
It is. It's through October 1.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you. Discussion about our face coverings policy?
Do we need a motion or anything? Because we're just, yep.
This is an active policy, so we don't need to do anything if we would like to just keep it as is. All right, it looks like we have no discussion on that. It makes sense, we're all wearing masks right now. So let's move on to personnel items.
All right, so the Human Resources Department has been extremely busy for, I think, over 22 months. The pandemic has shifted the recruiting and hiring landscape significantly. And Heather is here this evening to provide an update on some of the experiences our district has had with recruiting and hiring.
Thank you. As you can see, there are 5 pages of employee changes, and 2 of those pages are new hires. And this is just looking at the town of Northborough. So the HR department, Nina Wall, Elaine Chisholm, and myself support the 3 districts. So there's been a lot of activity. So I know that we all go out to dinner and we see the now hiring signs at the grocery stores and at the restaurants. That is a sign of the times, and so we've had some transition here as well. If you look at our resignations, though, you will see most of our resignations are actually aides. And a lot of that is because there are a lot of teaching opportunities elsewhere. So there are a few people here who have transitioned on for personal reasons, but most of our aides have gone on for promotional opportunities. So I think that we are viewed as an employer of choice in this area, and I want us to continue to be viewed as an employer of choice. And so when I'm recruiting, and there was a lot of recruiting happening, getting the most visibility is really the key to success and getting the best candidates. And so there were multiple avenues of recruiting this year. Social media, we have a LinkedIn presence, a Twitter presence, and we've relied on My Southborough. I've done a lot of advertising from the Framingham Patch to the Worcester Telegram, and relied a lot on professional networking and reaching out to colleges and universities and people that we know. And so we've also asked our principals and employees to reach out to people that they know, because great employees know other great employees. Right? So I think that it's just really important to say that we are an employer of choice. Our compensation packages are very robust, and that's one of the things that makes us an employer of choice. Another thing that really makes us an employer of choice is the 75% contribution with health insurance. I think that's really important. I was just talking with a prospective employee the other day who had an offer from another district, and this person wanted to know about our health insurance and if our plans covered her different care, medical care, and what percentage contribution that there was. And so it was actually, that was one of the tipping factors. The other one was I personally returned her phone call so quickly, and the other district did not. I try to be as prompt as possible, but those are important things to people when they're looking for prospective employment. So I think that in addition to that, being creative and being flexible with employees is really important. And so one of the things that we really try to do is to see if somebody comes to human resources with a question or a need, we try to figure out how we can support them. And so I think that is one of the other things that makes us an employer of choice. So as you can see, there were 157 employee-related transactions with hiring across the 3 districts. And then in Northborough, we had 25 new hires. So I think it's important to think about, yes, it's sad to see people go, but I think when we do hire new people, it's also an opportunity to look at new ideas and new ways of thinking, new ways of doing things. So I actually see that as a real opportunity to look at things in a different way in the schools. So in closing, I just want to thank the HR team. I know it's been an incredible amount of work that's been happening, and I really appreciate them and rely on them for helping our staffing process.
Thank you so much, Heather. Do you have any questions? Kelly?
Hi. It's nice to see you in person.
Likewise.
So have we replaced, or we're just still actively looking for some of the roles that aren't aides that left? For some of the positions, have they all been replaced, or are they being, like, I'm thinking, like, I know a custodian, the math specialist, the psychologist, I think I saw some technology systems administrator. So have all of them been replaced, or has the work been shuffled to different people that are already within the staff, or?
Yeah, I think it depends on the position, but we are still actively recruiting for specific positions. And this is typical. The hiring doesn't stop just because it's the first day of school. We continue to recruit and advertise, and we want to make the right hiring decisions. And so I think of recruitment as like fishing, right? You have to cast a very wide net in order to get the fish that you want. So in the next month's staffing report, you will also see some new hires there.
Great, thank you for your update, Heather. We appreciate it.
You're welcome.
All right, that brings us to our communications. We have 2 communications today in your packet. The first is the flyer for the MISC-MISS Joint Conference happening the first week of November. It looks like there is both in-person and virtual attendance as an option this year. And I know if you're interested, contact Cheryl, right?
Correct.
Cheryl always takes care of this.
And then next month we will identify a delegate for the conference.
Do we know if the delegate is going to be virtual, or if that's going to be just in person?
I can find out. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm curious if that part will be. You went to it virtually last year.
It was great to go virtually.
Yeah. Well, yeah, well, I went to the conference, 3 years ago, and I loved it. I thought it was great. I did not like that it's on a Wednesday, the primary, information is like a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday,
It's not family friendly.
No, or working friendly. It's really difficult to, especially I work on Tuesdays and Thursdays, so to take off one of the days of work, it's harder to do, to find coverage. And because it's not like it's right in our backyard, it's not really a go down and turn around type of thing. So I still have to figure out. I would love to go because it is such a great experience. I don't know if you've ever attended in person. I don't think you went in person. Keith, did you ever go in person?
I haven't.
No. It really is a great thing. I mean, I wish it was. I wish it was on a weekend, so then everybody could go, and it would be almost like a retreat type school committee type thing, and because the information that's provided there is really great. It really is. So.
And so due to the conference starting on that Wednesday, our November meeting is on the 1st.
Yep.
Correct.
Okay.
And we're going to do it.
And we got communication to see if we could make that a virtual meeting at a slightly different time. So I guess we'll confirm maybe next month whether the poll.
Yep.
It's looking good.
Yeah,
I was the last one to fill it out, so.
Oh, perfect.
Oh, I don't even know if I filled it out, but I can do it.
And then that brings us to Apple Fest. Unfortunately, there's no parade this year.
No parade, but Apple Fest is still being held, and it's the September 17th, 18th, and 19th. So a lot of great activities and opportunities for families to get out and enjoy Apple Fest this year. But we will not be marching in our parade. So
The
for
1,000
those of you
degree
school committee
days.
members who love marching in parades.
Oh my God! The last, in the mascot outfits, in the.
I know our schools have marched in the past
Yes.
as well. Do you know if there's any opportunity for those schools to be represented at Apple Fest this year?
I haven't. I'll check. I'm not sure. the organizers are always more than welcoming of our schools and involve us in any way they can. So.
Usually the PTOs do like a kids event, and I don't believe that's happening this year. So. All right, that brings us to action on our on minutes. So we have 2 sets of minutes here, our open meeting minutes of June 2nd, 2021, and then we have executive session minutes for June 2nd, 2021 as well. And those are in your packet, so I'm looking for a motion to approve those minutes. Okay, motion to approve the minutes for the open meeting of June 2nd, 2021, as well as the executive session minutes of June 2nd, 2021. Any motion, any second? Great, thanks. Motion second by Keith. Any discussion on these? All those in favor? Great. Those are approved unanimously. All right, we have 3 future agenda items. We have our NEF presentation that will be coming up, as well as a discussion for a study group for school choice, which we've talked about for several years, and then as well as school improvement plans. Do you have anything you want to add to those?
No, I think that's a good start for the month of October, and you and I will collaborate and identify other topics that might be important to have.
Does anyone have anything off the top of their head right now? All right, feel free to just email if you think of anything. Okay.
Just a quick note that I won't be at the next meeting. Hopefully there'll be Mrs. Grant to be with us, and we'll
Perfect.
be away on work time.
Sure. Of course, thank you. And that brings us to approval of bills and payrolls, which is done electronically, so we can check that one off. Excellent.
I did that.
Last but not least, we have audience sharing. Would anyone in our audience like to share?
Yeah, Peter.
I think it's up here.
Thank you. Just real briefly, it was such a, telling Greg, it was such a wonderful thing to be able to come back into my classroom and see a reading table in the back. And I can echo that for the entire staff. We're so happy to be back and seeing some signs of normalcy, having the closeness of the kids back to us again. And I also want to make sure that I shout out to the custodians as well, even though they're not in our association. They make life for us so much better. So thank you for that. And we look forward to another great year coming back from where we were and moving on. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Peter. It's great to hear the teacher's perspective about being back in the classroom. And we're excited to hear all of the updates as the year progresses. Thanks so much. All right, it looks like that's it. So I would like to hear a motion to adjourn.
I will make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Great. Motion second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Excellent. Passes unanimously. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night. Oh, do I do this now?
I don't know.
We are adjourned.
This was Karen's first in-person meeting.
That's what she was saying. I'm like shocked at this. I was like, I swear I've sat next to you before.